Now, I showed you this chap a little while ago, and he was a Mars robot, which everyone, well, I say everyone, many people called Zoidzilla because he resembles Zoidzilla. But the simple reality of the fact is that he's a very sort of modern toy. He's all pretty much in one piece, and other than looking a little bit like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, he really isn't quite the same sort of concept as Zoidzilla. But as it so happens, I now have Zoidzilla, so I can show you a direct comparison as to why people think he is in fact similar to Zoidzilla. But this is Zoidzilla. He's not moving at the moment. As you can see, Zoidzilla is in a completely different weight class compared to this guy. He really is. Well, he both is and isn't as big as I thought he was going to be. I never had him. So he was the leader of the Blue Zoids in the original Zoids series of toys, also known as Robo-Strucks in the US, where he was coloured differently as well, I believe. He later became a more secondary character in favour of the Ligers, and he did still appear in the series, I believe, but he became a more of a supporting Zoid for the big armies that came in, in the later cartoon series. But as you can see, he's got there are distinct elements which are very, very similar. So this guy's got a little teeny tiny gun on his tail. Zoidzilla has shed loads of guns on his tail. I still haven't cleaned him up very convincingly, I'm afraid. He needs a seriously good bath, but the problem is, as you can see, he has quite a few stickers on him. And obviously I can't wash the elements of him that have stickers, so not really sure how best to deal with that as a concept. But he may well have to stay largely as he is, but he'll display perfectly fine, and I think he's quite complete. This guy, as you can see, has quite a few sort of Gatling gun type things in his arms. Zoidzilla, on the other hand, has these sort of removable, very, very detailed cannons just here. It's probably quite hard to make them out actually, but that's a separate. Those are his weapon systems in the on the chest there. Just trying to refocus for you. That's a little bit better there. So I seem to have all of those. He's also got various other weapon systems. So his tail has these sort of laser guns here. Now this piece had puzzled me for a while. I'd seen it in a lot of pictures of Zoidzilla, and what I hadn't appreciated was that I thought it was like a kickstand or a prop or something for his tail, because his tail was heavy. And there's actually a weight in at the bottom end of his tail here. So if I show you up underneath there, which is slightly tricky to do, but can you see there's a really solid metal, just a block of metal basically there, and that's the counterweight the whole thing. So that's why people often notice that is actually missing on some examples of him. So, it's something to look out for in auctions for Zoidzillas, in that, you really need that tail piece to be there. And obviously it's got a lot of weapon systems on it as well, so you want them, but you've got to watch out for that tail piece being missing. But coming back to this piece, it turns out it's actually wheels, which makes perfect sense, because of course when he was walking, this tailpiece being as big as it is, he needed something to help keep it moving, keep it off the ground. So actually, that isn't a sort of a strut to support it when it's stationary. It's actually got two tiny wheels on either side of it to help him move. It move. So if you look at it from above, you can see why it's kind of relevant. So he's got a left and right wheel there that help to move it along. He's got these really cool booster-looking things here as well. Those are actually battery compartments. So he's got two AA batteries in there, because if I then switch, if I can find it, there's a switch back here somewhere. There. So if I switch that, actually that's probably, no, sorry, that's the walking switch actually. What am I looking for here? I better stop guessing, because I don't know this. There it is. I don't know this well enough to do it yet. But that, in theory, should make him light up. Now, he's a little bit temperamental with it. But there are batteries there. It's a little bit... I have in mind that I am going to get something that will clean battery contacts, because I do have this problem quite a lot with these older toys, that the battery compartments don't quite want to play ball with me. But you can see there that is now working, and he's got this sort of nice glow from inside his jaws as well. But it's very temperamental. I think the actual batteries are okay. It's just that there's just this one place I can hold it where it gets contact long enough for you to actually get the full effect. But that was one of the great selling points of him, I think, and because very few of the other Zoids did that sort of thing. Some of them had battery-powered movement, but they didn't have any sort of other effects. Now, obviously, he's from the mid-'80s, so he doesn't have any sort of sound features that I'm aware of at all, because he's made no sound from that part at all. His main battery compartment, incidentally, is in his chest here, and that battery compartment is very messed up. Now, if I can clean that, it may be that he would move. It's possible that the motor's still okay, but again, that's a project for another day in terms of cleaning him up. But what I love about him, as compared with this more modern version, is just the sheer level of detail. The reason I've not got this camera mounted on a tripod at the moment is because I just wanted the freedom of movement to be able to just sort of show you the level of detailing that's gone into him. He's got sort of arm-mounted weapons there, but he's got sort of pipes, he's got greebling everywhere. It's not just smooth plastic at all. It's a genuinely interesting model, which they didn't really have to do. I mean, it's a lot of effort to go to just for something that is basically going to be a toy and get stomped around and sort of break apart quite a lot. But I really appreciate the amount of effort that they put into making this really interesting. I'd love to know if they actually got any sort of permission to use Zoidzilla because of the Godzilla connotations, because obviously, you would imagine that would be a somewhat sensitive topic for somebody somewhere. Now, if anyone would like to tell me if there's anything in particular missing off him, I'd be interested to know. I know that he's got a few caps, and when I say caps, I mean these little plastic things here. I know he's got some caps missing off him. I know he's filthy, but if I just scan down this sort of modern, I can see exactly why people have termed this Zoidzilla when they haven't known, because he's got little sort of T-Rexy kind of things. He's basically a robot T-Rex. He's got lots of guns. He's got a sort of backpacky bit. I can completely see why people have chosen to call it. I mean, funnily enough, he's even got these little bits here aren't functionally anything similar to Zoidzilla, and yet he's got them, and you do wonder whether or not whoever designed this was thinking back to Zoidzilla, because of course they do look a little bit like the caps on Zoidzilla's tail, although his tail's a lot simpler than Zoidzilla's is. But he does also have these little sort of hints at sort of the sort of what do you call them, sort of spine ridges, I suppose, that Zoidzilla had. So there is a degree of an echo of Zoidzilla with this guy, obviously, but as you can see, the Zoidzilla is way bigger. If I put them next to each other, you can see Zoidzilla is a clear neck and head above this sort of modern version. Well, it's not even a modern version, because this is definitely not a Tomy toy. As I recall, it was quite a random toy company that no one had ever really sort of heard of. But it's definitely got more of a Power Ranger vibe to it. But it's not even a Power Ranger toy. But although Zoidzilla isn't as big as I somehow thought he would be, never having owned him, I can nevertheless see why so many people have such a fond memory of him, because he was clearly very well advertised at the time, and he is impressive. He would display really well. There's a lot to him. I imagine that when he moves, he does look really impressive. So I will definitely try at some point when I've got some time to get his and other battery compartments actually cleaned up, so I could actually at least see if they'll move. I mean, they may not do, but I do think he is quite complete. He didn't arrive complete in the sense that I needed to put some stuff back together, but I was able to do that. And I'm actually going to be getting a few more bits in the post, apparently, because I was promised a pilot, which isn't in there. I could borrow one from one of my smaller blue Zoids. It'd be the same size, but it would be nice to have his original pilot if I can get it. So I just thought I'd show you in the flesh as compared to a more modern toy, just for comparison, really, because they've made a little bit of effort with this one, sure, but it's not the same level of detailing as as you'd get in the sort of the mid-80s version at all. Nowhere near. I mean, yes, you'll get more bells and whistles and there's more electrics, and everything else on this one. But what is fascinating is the more I look at it, the more I'm noticing these echoes of Zoidzilla's design, which just doesn't explain to me why people immediately labelled him as Zoidzilla, even though his coloration is completely different as well. But there are definitely echoes there, I think. So let me know in the comments what you think, and if you have spotted anything missing off Zoidzilla, I'd be interested to understand what I am missing. But for display purposes, he gets the job done. It's just a question of him needing a little bit more cleaning up, I think, ideally. So that's it for now. Cheers.